Hello everyone, today we are going to look at my top Excel shortcut keys. To get started, we can look at Ctrl-Z and Ctrl-Y. So Ctrl-Z is basically reverse any action or let's say mistake that you just done. We can look at this by coloring these cells right here in any color like blue, and if you would like to reverse this last action, we can press Ctrl-Z. Ctrl-Y is the opposite. Basically, if you would like to bring back that action that we just done, we can press Ctrl-Y. F12 allows you to quickly save a workbook, but for me it also gives me the capability to know where exactly this file is saved. So if we press F12, this will pop up this window where it's going to show you the path of the file, which you can copy and send to a colleague of yours if they, for example, ask you where this file is saved in order to open it. We can copy and send them very quickly just by pressing F12. Control arrow allows you to go from the beginning of a dataset to the end of your dataset. So for example, if you'd like to go from column G to column K, we don't need to use the mouse. We can press Control and right arrow and we are instantly there. If you would like to go down, we can press Control down and now Control left and Control up. Just by using the arrows, you can go around your dataset very quickly. You can select multiple cells by pressing Shift down as many times as you want or as many cells as you need. And in this case, we want to select also the column H. So we can press Shift right. And if you would like to select the whole data set, we can simply add a control to our shortcut key. So if we press Shift, Control, right arrow, we just select our whole data set. Select entire row or entire column. So you can do this by pressing Shift space and you will highlight the entire row. And if you'd like to select the entire column, you can press Control space and this will highlight column I. So these are quite useful when you're analyzing your data, because if you select the entire column, Excel will give you quick insights like the sum of total sales or the count of data or cells that have some data in them. Control page down and control page up is basically a shortcut key which allows you to go through the tabs much quicker than using your mouse. So if you're using your mouse, you're basically choosing the worksheet by clicking in the ones you want. But if you want to do this much quicker, you can press Control page down to go forward. And if you want to go back in your worksheets, you can press Control page up. A bonus tip here for the Control page down and Control page up is you don't necessarily need to do this if you have a lot of worksheets in your workbook, like this example right here. So if you know exactly the one that you want to choose, you can right click on this arrow right here and all of your worksheets will be here, and you can choose which one you want by pressing here, or you basically can press OK and this will take you to the worksheet that you actually want. Control D and Control R basically copy the adjacent cells. A good example of this is if we want to add here an extra column on our right of our dataset, and for example we want to add here our tax or to deduct our tax. A good example of this would be if we select the K3 and one to the side as well, and we want to keep the same format, we can press Control R and this is what we get, the format and all the values that were inside of the cell. So let's change this to tax. And now if we want to use Control D, a good example of this would be if we put here the actual formula to calculate the tax or to deduct the tax from our total sales. And now we want to put the same until the end of our data set. Of course, we can use the fill down with our mouse, or simply by pressing shift down until the end of our data set, and then we can use our shortcut key Control D. F2 is one of the most useful shortcut keys that you should know. So in this example, I want to change, only using F2, 20% to 23%. So if you are in the cell that you actually want to change something, let's press F2. And note that here we are in edit mode. So this is going to allow us to go back and forward in your formula by pressing left key or right key. So you can move inside of the cell. And this example, let's change from 20% to 23%. And now if you want to go outside of the cell, so start moving around your data set, but not in this cell specific, you can press F2. And now you are in enter mode, and if you press any arrow key, for example the right arrow key, you go outside of the cell. Shift F9 is a shortcut key to calculate the spreadsheet that you are in. So if you press Shift F9, all of your worksheet, all your formulas will be calculated. This is quite helpful when you have the formulas in manual mode. So if we go here to formulas and calculate options, we have this workbook or this spreadsheet as manual. So this is quite helpful when you have thousands and thousands of rows and you don't want Excel to automatically calculate all your formulas. So if you have this in manual mode and you want to calculate your spreadsheet, if you see here we have all the same value, but this is not calculated yet, you can simply press Shift F9 and your formulas will be calculated without having the calculation options as automatic. Control Shift L will create a filter in your dataset. Normally what you are doing, if you're not using this shortcut key, you are going to data and pressing the filter option, and this will create these drop downs where you can choose the data you want to filter. But to me, it would be easier only to use the shortcut key Control Shift L. So let's do this. If we pressed Shift Control right, we go to the end of a data set and we can press Control Shift L to create your filter. But a bonus tip here, just be careful when you do this, because if you have more data with a blank row below, if you do this, all of this data here, so let's put here an example 1, 2, and 3, and 4. This data, if you do the way I've done it, this data will not appear in your filter. So let's test this. The 1s and the 2 and 3 and 4 are not here. So if you want your filter to have this data down here, what you need to do is to select all the data, including blank rows. So for example, let's do this by using some of the shortcut keys that we saw before. So Shift Control right and Shift Control down, and let's do it again. Shift Control down again and again. And now we can do that shortcut key that we were talking in the beginning. So Control Shift L to remove the drop downs that we had here, and now we can do it again. Control Shift L. And now if we look at the filters, now we have the 1s, the 2, the 3, and the 4. The Tab shortcut key is quite useful when you want to move forward or jump through your data set. So if we press Tab, you can see that we're going forward in your data set. Then if you want to go back, you can press Shift Tab and then you start to go backwards in your data set or the cells. But this is quite useful when you're using the short options, where you can use all of these or have access to all of these options right here when you press Tab, and then you can start seeing here all these highlighted in blue or the borders in blue, and you can continue pressing Tab to go to the option you want. Now, if you want to go back on the options, you can press Shift Tab, and then you can start seeing where this is being selected. Alt Enter is going to be useful when you want to create a line break inside of your cells for text or formulas. In this example, let's test this on large text that we have. So, for example, if we go to the formula bar and we want to do or create a line break here, we can do this by pressing Alt Enter, and then we can actually see where all of our data is. But if we press again Enter, we created a line break and we basically have 2 lines of text. This is actually useful as well when you are looking at a large formula that someone or even you created. So in this example, if we want to divide or create line breaks to better understanding of the formula inside of the cell, we go here to our formula bar, and we can resize our formula bar, and then we can start looking at the formula. For example, if we want to divide this after each comma, we can press Alt Enter, and then we can start seeing what was the logical thinking behind of this formula. And then again here, and then we can do in all of them what we just done. It depends on your preference, but for me this really helps me to look into the formulas and understanding, and also creating complex or nested ifs if required. So we spoke in the past about calculating a spreadsheet or the current spreadsheet you are in by pressing Shift F9 if your formulas were in manual mode and not as automatic. So in this example, let's calculate a selected range only. In order to do this, we go to the dataset or the range we want to calculate. So we can do this by pressing the arrow keys or the mouse. In this case, just the arrow keys. Let's go down a little bit, and then let's press Control Shift down, and we selected the range, or this is the range I want to calculate. And now we press F2, and now Control Enter, and this calculated only the range that I wanted. The next shortcut keys are a combination of a more advanced keystrokes. These shortcut keys take advantage of the ability of using the Excel ribbon with your keyboard only. So to start, let's rename this worksheet without using your mouse. So if we see here, this worksheet calls shortcut sequence, and we want to change to something else. So without using your keyboard, let's press Alt, and then we can start seeing here the Excel key tips, which allow us to go through the ribbon only using your keyboard. So now let's press H to go inside of the home ribbon, and then let's press O, and then here is where we want to go. If we want to rename the worksheet, we can press R as stated here. And now this text is available for us to edit. So let's press here, put shortcuts, and then if we want to confirm this change, press Enter. In the next shortcut keys, we are going to look at remove and adding new rows and columns. I know a lot of people probably use Control plus and Control minus, but I just want you to know that there's another ways to use this. In my case, I started to use this from the beginning. I find this quite useful. So if you want to insert a new column, what you have to do is, again, press Alt, H, I for insert, and then you choose C for column. And this will add a column to the left of your dataset. Now, if you want to use this to add a row, what you have to do is, again, press Alt, H, I for inserts, and then R. I know this sounds quite complicated, but once you memorize this, it is like second nature. So if you want to delete the row and column, it's basically, instead of pressing I, you press D for delete. So let's do it again. Alt H, D for delete, and then let's delete a row by pressing R. And now if you want to delete the actual column you are in, is the same thing. So Alt H, D for delete, and then C for column. If you created a pivot table before, only use your mouse. This is what you probably are doing. So you select your data sets, you go to insert, and then you press pivot table to create some. Of course, you can use the new worksheet. So this is going to take you to a new worksheet, or you can press existing worksheet and then you select the range where your pivot table is going to be located. But this is not what we want to do. We want to do this by only pressing keystrokes or using a shortcut key. So let's do this by actually selecting again our data set, and then what we are going to do is press Alt and V, and this will bring us the same option when we press or go through your mouse by clicking through the ribbon. Next up we have paste data, or the shortcut key to paste data. So what you are doing is to select your data, you copy by doing Ctrl+C in your keyboard, and then you do Ctrl+V to paste your data. Now, if you don't want your clients to know the formulas that we have in here, you can paste this as values as well. So one way to do this is to do a shortcut key by pressing first Control copy, because we need to have this in memory in order to paste this somewhere. And now we can do Alt H V, and now we know that we have to press V again in order for this to be as values. So V, and now we can see that there is no values inside. There is a lot more options. So if we do again Alt H, we can see that we have more options up here that you can choose from, like just a normal paste, formulas and formatting, and you can go through them and see which one you want to choose from. Leave your mouse aside and try to do this with your keyboard, which will make you much faster at Excel and analyzing your data. Next up is a shortcut key for you to access the drop-down lists of your filters. So in order to do this, you go to your headers where you have your filters. You can use the arrow keys to go there. So let's press down and down again. And now we can start using our shortcut key. So in order to do this, let's press Alt arrow down. And now we have all the options for all the values of our data set. In order to go to the data set, as a bonus tip, you can use the tab option. So let's press as many times as we want to go to select all without using your mouse. So this is another way, or a useful way, to use the tab option. For example, if you want to go back because you went too far, now you can use Shift Tab, and then you still press Shift and then press Tab again as many times as you want, and you are going to be in the option you want. In order for you to actually select the option you want, you can unselect all with space by pressing space. And now let's go with our arrow keys, down, 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 and let's choose by pressing space and then enter.